Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a good day. Hope you're doing well. I know it's been a few days since the last upload, but I've been busy with exams and stuff, so they're all done now. So we've got the whole summer ahead, so it's going to be lots of content coming. I'm sure, as I said, I'm going to try and develop the videos as they go and develop the content. I'm not sure where this is going to go in terms of making these videos. Whether I'm going to continue with the support. If people enjoy it and it gets a lot of sort of traction, and I'm going to keep doing it. Obviously, I've got the Twitter, which is where I sort of mainly operate. So Threadman Chazza on Twitter if you want to follow me there. But yeah, normally I'm just trying to do a few videos, YouTube videos a week, and just see how it goes, see where it takes me really. So we're doing well. We've got over 150 subscribers already. So I think people are enjoying it, which is good. So thanks a lot for the support so far. So obviously you've seen the title of the video. Ralf Rangnick has obviously left Manchester United. I think that's the big sort of talking point for this last few days since I uploaded the Tyrell Malacia video. I'll have a little word about him as well in a bit. But in terms of Ralf Rangnick, he's left the club. This so-called consultancy that he was supposed to do, what he was actually good at in terms of the structure behind the scenes of the club, what he was actually supposed to bring that was positive to Man United, which I thought that could outweigh the negative that's happened as a coach. That's actually not happening anymore, so it's all a bit of a mess. A lot of people think different things about Ralf Rangnick. Some people, I think the majority of people agree that he is not a manager. That's sort of not where his best talent lies. And some people thought we can't criticise him because of the squad, what he was left with. Some people think he was dreadful and worse than Ollie, or should we have kept Ollie, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people have got different opinions on this. My opinion, Ralf Rangnick was not brought in to be a manager. I wasn't so critical of Ralf Rangnick because of that, because he isn't a manager. That's not what he was. He was brought in for the longer term. But in the short term, he's maybe outspoken in the club's eyes. Not in my eyes, he spoke the truth, but in the club's eyes, he may have spoken maybe a little bit too much in press conferences about certain players and things. In terms of the structure in the club, maybe haven't liked that. Oh, we need to sign 8, 9, 10 players. I think he said once. And the club thought, oh, we don't want to spend that much money. We've got to take our dividends out as well. So I don't want to spend that much money actually. So the club may have thought, well, actually, I don't really agree with what this guy's saying. I think he's a bit too wild for us. He's a bit too ambitious for us, maybe. So that might be a reason why they've got him out. Other people think we've had a report out that Ten Hag and Ralf apparently have got different visions for the club. Could that be a reason? For me, I think it's mostly a club decision. I think they've had enough with his honesty and his ambition that he's been talking about. What he's been talking about, I think the club don't like that personally. I think Ten Hag and Ralf, I don't think manager and consultant have got to be on exactly the same page, if that makes sense. Obviously, you've got to understand what each other wants, and Ralf would have to understand what Ten Hag wants, and he would demand things off Ralf, in terms of maybe looking at player profiles and things like that. And the club would go to Ralf and say, "What do you think about this?" But I would think that no matter what you think about sort of Ralf Rangnick and Ten Hag is what they do as managers in terms of their philosophy. I think that actually could have worked quite well, I think, in terms of the vision. Obviously, this report that came out by Fabrizio Romano about they have got different visions. What does that actually mean? It's very abstract, that. Is it in terms of the vision? Is it the long-term vision of the club? Is it the short-term vision of the club? Is it what players they want to sign? Is it the way that they want to recruit? Is it the type of players they want to recruit? We just don't know, and that's the problem, I think, with media and journalism. We have reports out, and even if they're true reports, everything's very abstract. What does they have different visions mean? What visions do they have? I would have thought that they have maybe quite a similar vision, really. I thought they, in terms of Ralph's Gegen pressing, obviously Ten Hag employs quite a high pressing game when he's out of possession. Obviously, it's not the same style of play, but some of Ralph's sort of philosophy, some of it in part, is involved in Ten Hag's philosophy. And you think about the type of players, well, Erik Ten Hag tends to go for these players that maybe are not so popular, maybe out of favour, maybe some younger players, and that's what Ralf Rangnick did. He managed to find some real gems in the past. So I'm a bit confuddled. I'm a bit confused about that report. I'm not buying into that so much. My thought is that the club have had enough. That's my thoughts, and I think maybe even maybe the club even had this planned for weeks. Why did Ralf take the Austria job? I think that's a big question. Maybe the club had this plan for weeks, put it under the carpet, put a cloud over it for a few weeks, and then they've now made it look like it's Ten Hag and Ralf, almost their fault that they can't work together, not the club's fault for him going, if that makes sense to everybody watching. So that's my thought on it. I'm not saying that anyone's wrong that thinks that Ten Hag and Ralf can't work together. Maybe you don't think Ralph's any good from what you see as a manager. I understand that. But the fact that we ended up hiring Ralf Rangnick to do a longer term board sort of structure role, that's the only real reason we hired him as a manager, and then he's not even going to do the role he's good at. It's absolutely farcical to me. It's ludicrous. Why didn't we just go and hire Antonio Conte when he was available? We'd probably be in the top four. He probably would have signed one or two players in January, and we'd probably be, there'd probably be quite a few players that would be rejuvenated. Alex Telles, for example, obviously Conte plays with the back three, 3-4-3, a 3-5-2. There's probably some players in our squad that we didn't fancy, and they would have maybe been rejuvenated. Alex Telles at left wing back, for example, he would have been, I think he could have been a good player for Antonio Conte, maybe. So yeah, did we make the right decision? Time will only tell. But I'm just a bit disgusted that Ralf Rangnick has gone. It's been a terrible management from Ralf Rangnick, and he deserves some blame for it. But I think the majority, as I said, the majority of the blame, I think what Ollie left this squad, the state that the squad was left in, I think it's the previous regime's fault. Obviously, the Glazers are the main blame, and also the players as well. I don't think Ralf Rangnick is solely to blame, but I think he deserves some criticism, not so much as the players, in my opinion. But still, it was a terrible terrible few months as manager. But I think it's ludicrous that this has happened. If it is actually Ten Hag and him had different visions, that's fair enough. But I actually don't think that. I think, as I said before, I think that's on the club. So that's just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Do you think it's Ralf wasn't good enough? Did he speak too honestly, or was it him and Ten Hag? Do you actually think they can't work together? What do you think? So let me know in the comments. So that's the first, obviously, big talking point. Second big talking point, really, for me, is Tyrone Malacia. So we've seen a report come out today that Tyrone Malacia is an option for Ten Hag. Although talks are advancing with Lyon for Tyrone Malacia, there's still some interest for Ten Hag for Tyrone Malacia, the left back from Final. So that's one to keep an eye out on. If you haven't watched my recent video, the video before this one, I talked about Tyrone Malacia, his performance in the Europa League final, etc. The Europa League conference final, sorry, etc. So I talked about all that. And any other news? Obviously, Frankie de Jong and Manchester United are working on it. Frankie de Jong doesn't seem so keen because it's not, Man United cannot offer him Champions League football, which is obviously, I've always said this, that would always be the worry. And a lot of people, said otherwise on Twitter, but I always said, Frankie de Jong, you watch Champions League football, no matter what's happened with Barcelona. I know they ended up in the Europa League, etc. They got knocked out by Frankfurt, but he will still want Champions League football next season. So it's interesting. Let's see what happens. Interesting thing is that today I did some translation of a report that PSG are going to try and push for Tchouaméni. So obviously Aurelien Tchouaméni on the way to Real Madrid, we all thought, but apparently PSG are interested and they want to try and hijack this move. That's what they want to try and do. So obviously if PSG went for Tchouaméni, that would probably leave Frankie de Jong. We'd probably be the best option then for Frankie de Jong because there'd be nowhere else that could offer him Champions League football that's really realistic. You think about Manchester City, I can't see them going for Frankie de Jong. You look at Liverpool, not for me in terms of their style, doesn't really suit. You look at Chelsea, not for me again. You look at Spurs, no. Arsenal, you'd probably rather come to United than Arsenal, wouldn't you? Really, if you go with Ten Hag. So I think we're probably the best option out there. Bayern Munich have signed Gravenberch, obviously. PSG, obviously, if they sign Tchouaméni, obviously they probably won't be looking for another midfielder. So I think if Tchouaméni does, if PSG can push that deal in, I'd be surprised if they get it over there. I think Real Madrid for me are the favourites. Maybe is this PSG talk just to make Real Madrid pay up that extra bit of money? I think they want 100 million for Tchouaméni. His price has just rocketed. They keep asking for more. So maybe it's just about that. Maybe maybe it's just media driven. Maybe it's agent driven. Just looking for Real Madrid to come up with some more money for Tchouaméni. But obviously that is something to look out for, because obviously PSG or United, Frankie de Jong he might consider PSG with the players they've got there and the Champions League football. So that's just something to keep an eye on. And just a last point as well, Jurien Timber from Ajax. So this looks like the most likely signing we're going to make in the next few weeks. A lot of people have been asking, is he a centre back? Is he a right back? I think he can play either position, really. I think he can play either position. I understand people have got concerns about his height, 5'10", but he's actually very, very aggressive, and he goes in to win things. He takes risks. He's actually very, very aggressive for his height. I watched a few clips of him actually recently up against Erling Haaland when Ajax played Dortmund in the Champions League, and he was quite dominant. He was very, very good that night actually up against Haaland. I think he did pretty well. So yeah, Jurien Timber, I think that's probably the most likely signing coming up. I think personally, Ten Hag will experiment. He's going to experiment, Ten Hag. So people are thinking, oh, he's not tall enough to be a centre back, or is he a right back? Let's actually see. I think he can play either position. We don't know what Ten Hag's thinking at this point in time. In terms of his attributes, he's very, very good on the ball. He's aggressive. He can progress the ball with a forward pass or dribbling the ball, carrying the ball forward. That can be obviously very useful to break an opposition press. So I think he has the technical ability to play either position. And then in terms of obviously aerial duels, he's weak. But obviously, if you look at it, if you think about, I think Varane came out with really, really good aerial duel percentages this season. Harry Maguire is very, very strong in the air. Diogo Dalot is very strong in the air. So if he was to play that right centre back position, he'd probably be next to Varane or Maguire, with Dalot as well, sort of sandwiching him. So he's got players around him that are very, very strong in aerial duels. So I think that's just something to remember. Obviously, you might say to me, well, opposition strikers might target him. I'm going to go and play off Timber because he's not very good. I'm going to go up against Timber because he's not very aggressive. But I think he can. We'll see if he can hold his own. If he can't, he can play as a right back. I think he could do that as sort of an inverted fullback with Timber maybe slightly inverted, and then Luke Shaw as the wider left back on the other side. So I think that's what could happen. So that's just a quick roundup of the news, a quick roundup in terms of everything that's happened in the last few days, or just not everything, but just a few highlights, really, a few thoughts for myself. So as always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, please subscribe, please share the video around if you enjoy, and I'll be back soon with another video. Have a good day, everyone. Cheers.